And welcome back again. Yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander, to Midnight at the Oasis. We're an umbrella underneath the Keeping It Honest. I'm yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. We have a special episode today. Came on a second early in tribute to 9/11. Where were you on 9/11? 2001, September 11th. We're going to talk about the imagery. You see those two towers right there? Or what was? We're going to talk about the destruction of America. We're going to talk about our innocence up until September 10th. Once 9/11 came, that next day, our innocence was destroyed. You can email yours truly, parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. You can also text me, leave me a voice message, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. And my Instagram, my handle is Anthony Alexander SR8. Anthony Alexander SR8. So you can get in contact with me any of those ways. You know we like doing things with Parker Twists. We do the left side, we do the right side. At the end of the day, we let you decide. You may not like what you see, but hopefully we've educated you and you've enjoyed some things. We're going to talk about how the world has been different since 9/11, but in some ways it's come back the same. But the way things are going, the political ramifications, we don't get along with each other like we used to. We need to get back to the basics. And at the end of this show, you're going to see something that surprises you so much politically that it makes you think, hopefully, we can work it out. Right side, left side, Democrats, Republicans, whether you're a Harris supporter, whether you're a Trump supporter, at the end of the day, we can all love each other. So, where were you on that day, 9/11? I can let you know. I was on that day, I was crossing a bridge in my city when I heard about the one plane crashing into the building. And then they said it was a small copter. And then minutes later, another plane crashed. And the good thing was, well, for me, as far as keeping memorabilia, I was always taping morning shows when we did VHSs. And so I was taping the Today Show that day. And I was able to catch everything that happened because it happened, I think it was it was before 9 o'clock or 9 o'clock. I'll give you the correct time. So I was able to have on tape the whole event taking place live on TV. And to this day, 23 years later, I still have that tape. The 9/11, the day our world changed. But I was across the bridge, going across the bridge, and I was going to get some business cards. And it was interesting because I had my new cards. Got it from this guy who was a friend of mine. Unfortunately, now he's passed away, but he was a good guy. I always remember him. And I got my cards. And later on, when I was doing my TV show, I was able to interview a man who was in New York at the time of 9/11. And he was ex military. And when the buildings collapsed, he went down to that site to save people. We did a show. And I interviewed this guy. And I might be able to put it on this show so you can know a little bit about heroes. And boy, did we have a lot of heroes that day. And it's interesting the ramifications of some of the firemen and people, the first responders, when they saved people in 2001, the debris, the fumes caused them cancer. And there are still some people today who are sick because they went and saved a lot of people. And you think about this, you see those buildings, you think about this. When the fire of the planes hitting the buildings erupted up the buildings, some people were jumping from the buildings because they didn't want to burn up. They had no chance of surviving. But you think about this. When you think about, should I either burn up or should I jump? You decide to jump. And we know everybody has a story of where they were at 9/11. So we're going to do a Parker twist. And we're going to tell you this story. So let me know. Like I said, you can get in contact with me anytime. Let me know what you did on that day, 9/11. What did you do on that day? What year was it again? The September 11 attacks, they took place in 2001. What day was that? What day do you think that was? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? It was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday. Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. And on that day, it was so interesting. They had the two buildings collapse, of course. So on that day, they had a couple other things happen. United Flight 93 crashed, the World Trade Center, the Pentagon attacks, and also the plane crashing in Shankshaw, I think, Pennsylvania. And when this happened, it just changed the world of everything. Our innocence was gone. But the good thing that happened, the Department of Homeland Security and National Security Agency were also created. But the bad thing, since then, we've had two wars with the war, think about this, on terror in Afghanistan. It just ended in 2021, only a few years back. And we're talking about if things happen like they are happening across the country now, across the world, that there could be potentially a World War III. And let's hope that doesn't happen. So people are going to tell their stories. People have been telling their stories. The 20th anniversary of the terror attacks was on September 11th, 2021. How many people died on 9/11? How many people you think died? A total, excuse me, of 2,996 people were killed on 9/11, and more than 6,000 were injured. That was a lot. The total dead includes the hijackers, the plane passengers, the pilots, and the crew, 2,606 people in the World Trade Center and nearby areas, and 125 people at the Pentagon. So the 9/11 attacks killed 2,751 victims initially. This is how it was initially when we thought. In 2007, the total death toll was increased to account for those who succumbed to illnesses caused by exposure, again, like I said, to dust, debris, and toxins from the terrorist attacks. And tragically, that number continues to rise. So again, the first responders, they eventually, some of them, got sick and died. As of 2019, the new World Trade Center deaths totaled 2,753, and the overall deaths from the afflicted areas was 2,996. So where were you on that day? Let's hear where some people were. Midnight at the Oasis.
It was a beautiful day. It was warm. The sun was shining. To me, this oath is sacred. You're there to help the public, no matter what it is. You're there to help them. So we start moving people, evacuating people.
31-year-old Janelle Guzman had taken a job with the Port Authority located on the 64th floor of the North Tower.
I did not know what was going on.
So you think about that. Now she's way up on that tower. And eventually those towers went down. So how did she make it up there? Or how did she make it down? And you think about the other lady that was talking. She went to the towers and went inside to start seeing what was happening. Eventually, again, those towers went down.
Meanwhile, on the streets of downtown New York, there is pandemonium and chaos.
I hear another plane, and I happen to look up.
We hear just this giant explosion. Flight 175 going into the South Tower.
Having seen both planes slam into the towers, Judy knew the extent of the inferno on the upper floors. As smoke begins to engulf their floor, Janelle and some of her coworkers finally decide to get out of the North Tower.
All right, so both buildings are hit. There's fire everywhere. They're not thinking, because they didn't know, that the two towers were about to go down. And of course, if you know the story, one tower went down first, and then after that, the other one followed. So think of how many people are up there. I use my pointer in those towers. And as you can see right there, the smoke is all the way around there at that one. That one's still standing. That one has a little bit, I think. Well, not a little bit, it's still there. But you think about all the people that were up there in that tower.
And we were going down, we were counting these staircase, holding hands. And I think when we made it to the 30-something staircase, there were firefighters coming up.
Saying so it was so bad that people were jumping. And it's interesting to note, you wonder how many people were killed on the ground because of people that were jumping from the towers. Think about that.
Holding hands, and it was their neckties flapping in the wind that never made it on the air. For the respect of—
We're saying, what's that?
So how was she able to get out of this building? Evidently she did, because she's telling the story. The first tower fell down. It fell next to the second tower, but the debris from the first tower kind of stopped everybody from getting out. She thought she was going to die there.
As the North Tower collapsed, Janelle was still inside.
Pennsylvania.
And so I remember too, it just seemed like planes were crashing left and right. We still didn't know what was happening. We kind of knew there was kind of like some kind of attack, but we were like, wow, when are these planes going to stop?
Passengers and crew stopped the plane from reaching its intended target, the White House.
And on this one, this plane was headed for the White House. And so the passengers on board stopped the terrorists from trying to direct this plane into the White House. So they made it crash right here at this landing spot, or crash spot, which they're talking about now. You got the World Trade Center, the two buildings, and you've got the plane that was headed for Washington. And from what I remember, it went over Ohio, but you got passengers on there that fought the terrorists and made that plane crash before it could make its way to Washington.
Realization that I'm gonna die. They're not gonna find me.
Wow. So what do you think about that? Midnight at the Oasis, September 11th. Where were you on that day? We just heard a couple people's stories. I told you a little bit about mine. And I was able to interview this Marine. I think it was a Marine. No, Sergeant in New York at the time that came back and saved people. I pray he's doing okay. A lot of the first responders, the ones that did survive, they wind up getting, not all of them, but some of them wind up getting cancer because of the debris and the smoke and everything. And to this day, some are still feeling the effects of that. If you have any questions or comments, you can email yours truly. It's parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. You can also give me a call, not call, but a text. That telephone number is 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. And my Instagram number or handle is 216. Sorry about that. It's Anthony Alexander SR8. Anthony Alexander SR8. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about 9/11. How many planes were involved in this? There were 4 planes. The 2 planes that hit the towers, the 1 plane that hit the Pentagon, and the 1 plane that the passengers were able to crash before it went to Washington. So the 9/11 attacks, they occurred in the morning hours of September 11, 2001. Departing from Boston's Logan International Airport, American Airlines Flight 11 was flown into the World Trade Center's North Tower, which we just saw, at 8:46 a.m. And then United Airlines Flight 175, also departing from Logan, hit the South Tower 17 minutes later at 9:03 a.m. So you get the first plane that hits. Some people thought it was a helicopter, and they were amazed by it that it hit the 1 tower. And then not too long after that, 17 minutes later, another plane hit another tower. So now American Airlines Flight 77 departed from Dallas International Airport in Virginia when it was hijacked over Ohio. So it was hijacked over Ohio, and it crashed into the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. So you've got 8:45 a.m. for the first tower, 9:03 a.m. for the second tower, and then you got the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. And then a 4th plane, United Airlines Flight 93, departed from Newark International Airport, is now called Newark Liberty. It was hijacked at approximately 9:28 a.m. and it crashed into a field over Shanksville, Pennsylvania at approximately 10:03 a.m. So within an hour or so, they had 4 planes crash: 8:46, 9:03, 9:37, and 10:03. So within that short amount of time. So how many total hijackers took part in the 9/11 attacks? A total of 19 hijackers participated in the attacks. So the 4th plane, like I said, it crashed into a field, killing all the passengers and crew on board. And how many buildings collapsed? In addition to the towers, because we always talk about the towers, the Marriott Hotel at 3 World Trade Center and the building at 7 World Trade Center, they collapsed as a result. Other nearby buildings sustained extreme damage as well, including a Deutsche Bank at the 130 Liberty Street in New York City. It was demolished about 6 years after the events. So, who was president at the time? We're wondering, all this is happening, who's president? Well, George W. Bush. He was the president when 9/11 took place. And I don't know if many of you remember this, but at that time of the crashing, the first crash, he was reading to children, elementary kids, at Emma E. Booker Elementary School, and the book he was reading was The Pet Goat. I have to get that book to read it to see. And this was when the attacks were taking place. He was initially informed while he was reading of the first crash into the World Trade Center's North Tower, but was told it was likely a small propeller aircraft. So, yeah, maybe not that big a deal. So I guess he kept on reading because he didn't want to, scare the kids. But minutes later, his chief of staff, Andrew Card, told him that a second plane crashed into the South Tower and that it was a coordinated attack on the country. So I guess he finished reading, and then he went to see about what was happening. So we talk about the first responders and the firefighters, and as you saw those stories of firefighters, how many firefighters died on that day? Because some people from, certain engine companies, when they went to go save people, they all died. So a total of 343 firefighters died from the 9/11 terror attacks. Tragically, there are many more because of health-going issues, the first responders. So you're wondering, let's say that was your first year, maybe first couple years as a firefighter. That's only 20-something years ago. So if you're in your late 20s, you could be almost 50 now. And you would really remember what happened on 9/11. And then if you were a first responder that really wasn't there when it fell down, but was around the area to save people, how many of those people that were there have health problems because of 9/11, because of the dust, debris, and the toxic air? So how many first responders? We talk about that. How many first responders died on that day? So a total of 412 first responders died on 9/11, comprised of 340 firefighters, and 72 police officers. The total number of casualties of the aftermath of the attack has risen over the years. So over 1,100 9/11 first responders have been diagnosed with cancer directly linked to the 9/11 debris. Wow. So how many people died at the Pentagon on 9/11? We saw her story. A total of 125 people died at the Pentagon on 9/11. How many children? We don't talk about that too much. How many children died on 9/11? A total of 8 children died. Some people thought it would have been a bigger number. How many people survived 9/11? Sadly, no one on any of the planes survived the 9/11 attacks. You heard the story about the lady. She was in the building. The 2 buildings went down. All those people, officers in these buildings. How many people escaped from the North Tower of the World Trade Center before the building collapsed? How many people got out? Only 15 people. Wow. That's the North Tower. So the South Tower, how many people survived and got out before it crashed? 18 people. So 15 in one, 18 in another. And you saw how big that building was, but you saw how it just fell down. And you saw how people were trying to escape. So out of the debris after it went down, how many people survived that? Only 23 people. Wow. So the interesting thing, the good thing about the Pentagon, an average of 23,000 individuals are in the building at any given time, meaning it had a much higher rate of survival than the World Trade Center upon impact. So thank God there really could have been even a lot more deaths at the Pentagon, but there wasn't. You're watching, Keeping It Honest. Midnight at the Oasis with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. And we are talking about 9/11. And where were you on 9/11? You can contact me. Email parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. Instagram, Anthony Alexander SR8, Anthony Alexander SR8. And you can text me, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. Get on my site. We have videos. We do live. We do shorts. Our shorts are as short as 5 seconds. Our longs are as long as 5.5 hours. We've covered the Democrat-Republican convention. We've covered debates. We've talked about different things. We put things in a Parker twist. We're talking about 9/11 and how it affects us even to this day. Why can't this country get along? Well, at the end of the show, we're going to show you that it really can. But let's go back and remember where we came from. Where were we? The question was September 10th, a happier place, and then 9/11 woke us up.
American Airlines emergency line, please state your emergency.
The cockpit's not answering. Somebody's stabbed in business class. And I think there's mace that we can't breathe. I don't know. I think we're getting hijacked.
And that's the plane that was going to Washington, D.C. So somebody is calling 911 saying they're being hijacked.
World Trade Center or the...
It's a trade center.
The World Trade Center. There's a fire on the upper floors.
And who would have thought that the fire on upper floors would eventually make the whole Trade Center, both buildings, go down?
Just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning
that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more than that. We don't know if it was a commercial aircraft. We have no idea how many were on board or what the extent of the injuries are right now.
Jules, this is Ryan. On an airplane that's been hijacked. If things don't go well, it's not looking good. I just want you to know I absolutely love you. I want you to do good. So happy to find that I just totally love you, and I will see you later. Bye, Dave. Bye-bye.
So wow, you just saw that. You saw that just happening right there. Wow. That's interesting. Man. I don't know if we can go back a little bit, but let's do that.
I will see you later. Bye, Dave. Bye-bye.
And that's how the second plane hit the second tower.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That looks like a second plane.
There's another one. Another plane just hit. Right. Oh my God. Another plane has just hit. It hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it.
Oh my goodness, there's another one.
It seems to be on purpose.
Oh my goodness, now it's obvious, I think.
I leaned over and whispered into his right ear, a second plane hit the second tower.
And there's President Bush reading to the class, and that's his chief of staff telling him while he's reading the book, we're under attack, President.
America is under attack.
Today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We're looking at a live picture from Washington, and there is smoke pouring out of the Pentagon. It would appear that there has been another major explosion, this one in the nation's capital. There is smoke in the air over the Pentagon.
And again, right after the 2 planes, another plane hit the Pentagon. The first building that's going down. You wonder how many people close to that survived that.
We're getting reports that a part of the tower, the second tower, the one a bit further to the south of us, has collapsed. We are checking on that.
United 93, that traffic for you is 1 o'clock, 12 miles.
And it's so interesting. People had to go inside of buildings because of the debris. And now this taking place right now is the one airplane, the one that the passengers took control from the terrorists.
Eastbound 370.
Negative contact. We're looking at United 93.
When I took the call over, there was a soft-spoken, calm gentleman. I asked him his name. He told me Todd Beamer.
And I think you all know the story about Todd Beamer. If not, you're about to learn it. His wife talked after his death, and she let everybody know how much of a hero this guy really was.
He said, "Lisa, would you recite the Lord's Prayer with me?" He said, "Okay, let's roll."
We've got a report from a guy at 24 of a cloud of black smoke off his lap.
Wheeling to 97.
But we don't have confirmation.
United Airlines flight number 93 left Newark at 8:01 this morning en route to San Francisco. It went down in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
The North Tower is leaning. Oh my God, there it goes!
I hope I live. I hope I live. It's coming down on me.
And it was so bad that people were running away. They weren't in the building, but all the debris from both of those buildings and the smoke and everything rushing. And you got people running literally for their lives. Like the one guy saying, "I hope I live," is coming down on me.
And there's, you can see, perhaps the second tower, the front tower, the top portion of which is collapsing. Good Lord.
Both trade towers, where thousands of people work, on this day, Tuesday, have now been attacked and destroyed.
And you look at that, wow. And on that day, 9/11 is really where our innocence changed.
There is simply no way to accurately describe the emotion this evokes.
I want you all to know that America today is on bended knee in prayer for the people whose lives were lost here, for the workers who work here, for the families who mourn. This nation stands with the good people of New York City and New Jersey and Connecticut as we mourn the loss of thousands of our citizens. I can hear you.
Sometimes the good things about politicians, some are in place for that time that we need them. Whether it's President Obama, whether it's President Bush first, whether it's President Bush second, whether it's President Clinton, whether it's President Biden, and whoever else is going to be that president. In times of need, that's when you need the leaders. And I think that's the leaders that we get.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us
soon. September 11 will go down in our history as a day to remember. None of us will ever forget the pictures of our courageous firefighters and police, many of whom have lost friends and colleagues, or the hundreds of people attending or standing patiently in line to donate blood. A tragedy like this could have torn our country apart, but instead, it has united us. This event can give a message of hope, hope for the present and hope for the future. The cross tells us that God understands our sin and our suffering. And from the cross, God declares, "I love you." The story does not end with the cross. For Easter points us beyond the tragedy of the cross to the empty tomb. It tells us that there is hope for eternal life, for Christ has conquered evil and death and hell. My prayer today is that we will feel the loving arms of God wrapped around us, and will know in our hearts that He will never forsake us as we trust in Him. And this is going to be a day that we will remember as a day of victory. May God bless you all.
And look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that really beautiful? Wow. You're watching Midnight at the Oasis. Yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. Let's just freeze on that. There we go. That's a great picture. May God bless you all. Wow. Have any questions or comments? You can email yours truly, parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. My handle, Instagram, here we come, we are here, is Anthony Alexander, SR8. Again, Anthony Alexander, SR8. Now, we talk about how we have leaders at the time that we need them. And I can tell you, really, running for office, running for Congress, politicians, you recently watched the debate, name calling, people hating each other. Why can't we all get along? So, after the Twin Towers, they did a September 11th memorial, and to pay tribute to everybody who died on that day. And every year, on September 11th, the world gets together. I'd say, United States, really, but the world, and they remember this tragic day. And no matter what's crazy in your world, politically, whether you're Democrat, Republican, whatever, they all seem to get together. And sometimes it kind of surprises you when they do. But when they do, it makes you think, you know what? This isn't just America. This is the United States of America. So check this out. Democrats, Republicans disliking each other, fighting each other, people running for president, calling each other names. But on this day, they were together. So what you see here, you see President Biden, you see Vice President Harris. They're coming together on this day. And they're at the memorial in New York City. Now, are they just doing that because they're politicians? Well, the one thing that I do like is what I saw right here. I want you to take a look at this. You have Miss Harris right here. You have President Biden right here. You have Donald Trump right here. Republican candidate for president right here. Republican candidate for vice president. JD Vance. Well, where's Waltz at? Now I think about it. But you got President Biden, Vice President Harris, Donald Trump. These two are running against each other. And you got JD Vance. The question is, where's Tim Walz? I don't know. But you look at them coming together. There we go. Where would you see this ever? These two, Ms. Harris and Mr. Trump, had just finished calling each other names the night before. And they're shaking hands. And they're together. And this is, I think, Bloomberg. He used to be mayor of New York. But they're all to pay tribute to the memory of 9/11. There we go. I like these pictures. So we're keeping it honest. We're remembering 9/11. And sometimes you have to go through the past, which might have been hard, and it's hard for people, to get into the future. And they're really showing these guys. That's a good picture right there. Who's going to win? Who's going to be president? Remember, like I said, was it going to be her or was it going to be him? But remember, like I said, and no matter what times we have, what moments we have, we always have that leader at the moment that the country needs a leader. From Ronald Reagan to Jimmy Carter to George Bush to Bill Clinton to George Bush Jr. to Barack Obama to Donald Trump to Joe Biden to either President Harris or President Trump again, we will have that neat leader who needs to be there to lead us. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you. You've been watching Midnight at the Oasis, our September 11th memorial. And let me bring this up again because I love this picture. If you want to think of America and what it's been through and how hard it's been for us, look at what we've become. Look at that. Look at that picture. Isn't that a beautiful picture of America? No matter how other countries go, no matter what other countries do, we are one of the best countries in the world. And sometimes we tend to forget that with so much infighting. But when there are tragedies around, we tend to buckle down and realize we're not the separated states of America, black or white, whatever nationality you are, whatever sexuality you are, whatever gender you are. We're not the separate states of America. We are the United States of America. So, as we end this Midnight at the Oasis, I want to let you know I'm hoping to have the singer of the song, originally Midnight at the Oasis, on my show because they're celebrating the 50th anniversary of that song. So stay tuned for that. So I hope I've made you think. I hope I've made you cry. I hope I've made you reflect on how good it is to be an American. We still got work to do, okay? We've come a long way, especially since 9/11. But we still have a long way to go. But let's look at this picture as what we can continue to become. One of the greatest countries, one of the greatest, countries in the world. So I'm Anthony Parker. Tell your friends, hit the like button, hit the share button, and also subscribe. And in closing, because I didn't do a prayer at the beginning, so I'm going to do a prayer now. Dear God, we thank you. We thank you for the good times. We thank you for the bad times. We pray that as we're going through those bad times, that you are there with us and for us as you are there for the good times. As we can continue to reach our goals, we pray that you're not just standing next to us, but you're lifting us to get to our goals. Amen. Keep your head up. Never look down. Always believe in yourself. and therein will lie your answer. I'm Anthony Parker of Keeping It Honest and Midnight at the Oasis. God bless, and God bless America.